What's going on, Colts Nation? I appreciate you joining me for another video where in this one we're going to talk a little bit about what else is out there. What do we need? What else is out there? Just sitting here, I saw, a quick list of a couple of the free agents that are still out there. Of course, we all know Aaron Rodgers is still available. That's, probably the most prominent story on a daily basis right now in the NFL world. But at the moment, just looking at all the other free agents that are out there, I wanted to go through and just see, hey, do we need any of these guys? Is there a place to bring in any of this talent? And figured, hey, why not have this conversation with you guys? If I'm going to sit here and go through it, might as well go through it with some of my favorite people, those of you in Colts Nation, those of you that come and stop here by the channel. So, of course, I appreciate you guys stopping by. If you enjoy the content, hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe with notifications on. Again, appreciate you guys hopping in this one. And as we get into it, of course, as we look at quarterback, we already did what we're going to do there. Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones, Riley Leonard, Jason Bean, Aaron Rodgers, not an option. Okay, and then at running back, there are some interesting options available at running back, but currently we have Jonathan Taylor, Khalil Herbert, DJ Giddens, and Tyler Goodson. I just don't see a way for us to fit somebody else in, which is really, honestly, pretty unfortunate. You look at some of the names out here. Nick Chubb, it'd be cool to see him come back and be good for somebody. Nyheim Hines, who is now Nyheim Miller Hines, he is available. Thought, hey, maybe there's a chance he comes. That's not going to happen. I think with DJ Giddens, drafting DJ Giddens is really the one that solidifies the running back room. But, really just names on here, man. Jamal Williams, Gus Edwards, Jeff Wilson, Nick Chubb. Like, you might, if you're more, you really only pay attention to the Colts and, other star players, you might not know all these names. But, like, especially people that play fantasy football, you're going to know these names. Like a J.K. Dobbins being available is incredible right now. Cam Akers, who feels like he's been in the league forever. He's not even 26 years old at this point. So there's some names out here. Trey Sermon's still available out there, but again, running back just doesn't feel like something we need. Wide receiver would be an interesting conversation to have, but again, I think the six that we're going to take into the season are pretty set. I thought maybe there'd be an option to go do something, whether it was draft or free agency, go get a wide receiver, but then you bring Ashton Doolin back. And if you're doing that, then I assume he's going to be in the lineup. So I think the six that we're going to have at wide receiver are set, so that's not really going to matter. But again, some interesting names here. Like if the Colts wanted to bring somebody in and, hey, listen, it's going to get cutthroat here. You got Keenan Allen. Amari Cooper is still available, who's been productive even very recently. Obviously goes to the Bills, doesn't really work out with them, but those being the top two available is kind of crazy. Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper. Tyler Boyd is up here. DJ Chark is up here. Not many names after that point, but just thought it was interesting, those two being the top two. Like, is there a way to fit that? Like, if we were to go get Keenan Allen, right? Like, if that was an option for us. Now, obviously, that's a guy that would probably work more in the slot, which then what do you do with Josh Downs, right? Which is why it just doesn't seem likely that we go get either of those guys. Because then on the outside, are you taking Michael Pittman Jr. or Alec Pierce off the field to put Amari Cooper on? I'm not sure. You probably want A.D. Mitchell to continue to develop, to continue to get on the field and see what you have with him past this year, or do you need to re-sign Alec Pierce and have him be the guy on the opposite side of Michael Pittman Jr., right? Like, decisions are going to have to be made. So wide receiver, just not something that I see for the Colts right now. And then from the tight end position, obviously we got Tyler Warren. Outside of that, we didn't do anything with the tight end room. We brought back Mo Alley Cox. We have Drew Ogletree, Jelani Woods. Hopefully he can stay healthy and make an impact. But like, we didn't do anything. And the veterans that are available, like, not like playmakers, right? Like Gerald Everett at 31 years old, Mercedes Lewis, 41 years old, right? Like, you're getting these guys. These are almost all these guys are 30 plus. All the guys that are on here, none of them are names that I would want to add at this point. So we're going to need Tyler Warren to stay healthy for sure. Gonna need that. But overall, because we have Tyler Warren, obviously feeling much better about that tight end position and the kind of production that we can get from the tight end position this upcoming season. Okay, now on the offensive line, the way things are slotted, at least on ESPN, Mackin Savez is slotted into the right guard position. And that's a conversation we've had here. And it's not that this is guys played a whole bunch of right guard in his life, but this is a guy that has came into the league knowing with his body type and his athleticism and everything about Mac and Sav is this is a guy that can play tackle, but he has the flexibility to slide inside and could probably be really good for you on the inside. Braden Smith played guard before, but seems like he's going to be staying at tackle. So what are we going to do at that right guard position? We've talked about bringing in Brandon Scherf, something that I think is possible. Mark Lewinsky's still out there. And, of course, with all the guys that we could name, there's going to be positives, there's going to be negatives. Like any of the guards that are still available, there's a reason for that, right? These guys are getting older, teams trying to invest in the youth and trying to build the team the best they can around young quarterbacks. For the most part. And so for the offensive line, it's at what point do we feel comfortable bringing in these guys? And I think we're getting to that point where you can bring in one of these guys. And we have a video already talking about Brandon Scherf and bringing him in at that guard position. I think that's definitely a possibility. Mark Lewinsky, of course, has to be a possibility, right? But you also have and it just says guard here. I'm not going to be, you're not going to sit here and act like I know all these guys and if they play left guard or right guard. But you have Shaq Mason, Will Hernandez, Joe Feliciano, Cody Whitehair, Dalton Reisner. Don't know if I already mentioned that name, but he's definitely a possibility, a pretty good possibility. Jack Driscoll, right? And then from there it becomes, names you don't know or names that aren't going to matter. But really, what are we going to do at that right guard position? Of course, that might be the biggest question on the roster probably at this point, is that right guard position. Then when you look over at the defense, looking at the defensive line, at this point, what can we really do on the defensive line? Are there edge rushers? Are you going to bring in a guy like Von Miller? Are you going to bring in a guy like Matt Judon, Preston Smith, Zadarius Smith? There are definitely names here, but are any of these guys gonna be guys that are gonna come in and want to be part of a rotation, right? Because you already have guys like Kwity Paye, Liatu, Samson Ebicom. We just drafted JTT, who we hope to end up on the other side of Latu at some point. Isaiah Land is on the depth chart, right? Tyquan Lewis is still here. So there's a lot there. Are you going to add any of these guys? It just doesn't seem likely. But it is interesting. Could we possibly end up getting a defensive tackle? Somebody else to fill the middle of that defense. And as of right now, the top available guy is Raekwon Davis. Is there a possibility of us bringing him back, adding him to the depth? We have obviously Grover and Buck, and then Tommy Ade, Neville Gallimore, who we signed in free agency, and then we drafted Tim Smith. Right, and there's also a guy, Darius Payne. Don't know anything about this guy's name. I think we signed him to a future contract or signed him right after the season or whatever. Don't know when this guy came in, honestly, but his name's been on the depth chart. But for the most part, right, we're looking at, 5-guy rotation. How can that be used? Do they want to bring in one more? What do we even really need to bring in one more when you talk about who's going to be active on the 53 going in, or the active 46 going into every Sunday, and who's going to be on the 53-man roster and how many from every position? Do you even bring in another one? DT seems like it might be solidified. So defensive line, probably pretty set in stone. But then, of course, there's going to be questions around the linebacker position. And while I understand the need for depth at linebacker in this system, I don't know if it's going to be as important necessarily. And, which one of these guys could you possibly bring in to almost certainly be a backup, right? Like I mean, there are names here, right? C.J. Mosley, Jawan Bentley, Devondre Campbell, Eric Kendricks, right? Like there are definitely names out here. Eric Kendricks seems like he might end up going back to Minnesota from the last that I was hearing, at least from Viking Syndicate. That's what I was hearing. That might be the writing on the wall there. Quan Alexander's on this list, somebody who promising start to his career, and is kind of teetered off. Zach Cunningham, same thing. But nonetheless, like at least of the inside linebackers, doesn't look like there's really anything that would be like, hey, let's go get this and make sure we get this on the team. From outside linebackers, I mean, a lot of these outside linebackers are pass rushers anyways. So I just don't see any of these names as I sit here and look at it. Don't really see that we're going to do anything else at linebacker. So as we go into it, good possibility it's Carlisle, Franklin, Alubi, McGrone, Anderson. And I also think that even though Hunter Wohler is listed as a safety, I think he's going to be included in that linebacker group, right? That tweener, and he's going to find a role in the defense. There are people that are talking about out there how Hunter could come into this and be like one of the sneaky defensive, not like defensive rookie of the year, but sneaky good weapons coming out of this draft from the late round guys. There are people thinking with what his role could be and kind of what he could specialize as in this Lou Anarumo defense, he could be good for us. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Could he be a secret weapon in the defense? But again, I think having him kind of adds him to that linebacker room. And again, I feel like people forget Segan Luby's on the team. Very good. If he gets on the field, like good. So, realistically, we could have, our starters and our backups at that linebacker position all set. At the cornerback position, that feels like one where we're going to be set. We just drafted Justin Wally, somebody for that slot corner position, which is something that I think we've lacked over time. But I think we have pretty much what we want. Now, there are some options that are interesting out there that could really push the rest of the room, right? When you think about, Samuel Womack, when you think about Juju Brents, even Justin Wally, right? And then the guys behind him, Corey Ballantyne. These guys on the depth chart behind the starters, behind Jalen Jones, even throwing Jalen Jones into the competition, right? And having Charvarius Ward there. You have James Bradbury, Kendall Fuller, Stephon Diggs, or Stephon Gilmore. Rasul Douglas is out there. Mike Hilton for the slot to be able to push. Obviously, Justin Wally, but Kenny Moore's there, so I don't know if Mike Hilton would want to come and be a backup. Emmanuel Mosley, who's a guy that I've liked in the past, just has had trouble staying healthy. C.J. Henderson, I thought coming into the league, I thought he was going to be so good. He kind of started that way and then teetered off. Asante Samuel Jr., interesting what's happening with him. Are there injury concerns? What's going on there? Why aren't people signing him? I'd love to know what the stink is on him. But somebody that I'm interested in and somebody I think had a fine start to his career. But again, there are names here for corners. Are they going to bring somebody in for corners? I don't know if that's something that the Colts are really interested in. I think they have the depth that they want. And I think what we have is what we're probably going to roll into the season with. But I do think there's a conversation to be had at safety. Okay, when you look at what the Colts are rolling into the season with, obviously Cam Bynum and Nick Cross projected to be the starters. Daniel Scott and Rodney Thomas behind them. And then Marcel Dabo and again, Hunter Wohler, who again could be lumped into that linebacker group as well. People talking about, hey, potentially bring Julian Blackman back and have him be part of the safety room. Having Quandre Diggs maybe. Justin Simmons is still out there. Like, there are definitely options here for the Colts. Any number of veteran guys to bring in, Marcus May, Rodney McLeod. Like, there are a lot of different guys here available for the Colts to want to bring in at any point. So safety is definitely something we could end up looking at. But this is another conversation. Like, I feel like we have our starters, so which of these guys is going to be okay with coming and being a depth piece? Even though in this Lou Anarumo defense, we might play three safeties a decent amount of the time, and we can have a guy come in and get on the field a decent amount. Which one of these guys would be okay not playing so much, would in turn be a lower contract, right? So could you talk Julian Blackmon into that? Could you talk Marcus Williams or Quandre Diggs into that, right? Like, how are you going to be able to pull that off? How could you close that deal, which is what Chris Ballard talked about throughout this offseason and was able to do in free agency. So looking at it, that's really where we're at. I feel like we're pretty set. We have a pretty good roster. If the quarterbacks can figure it out, we have a pretty good roster rolling into this season. So I feel pretty good about us. Right guard, there's, of course, some question at right guard. Depth at safety, depth at linebacker. When we're talking about needing depth at positions, I think we're doing pretty good. Okay, not every team, in pretty much all 32 teams, is going to be lacking depth somewhere, right? It is the way it is in the salary cap era. But I think we're positioned in a really good spot if we can, again, just have the quarterbacks find some consistency at that position, be able to get the balls into the hands of playmakers, Jonathan Taylor and the rest of the running back room. Honestly, I'm excited to see our entire running back room operate this season, from Jonathan Taylor to Khalil Herbert to DJ Giddens. It's going to be a really fun season if the quarterbacks can get it figured out. So I'm excited. I think we're looking pretty good. There are a lot of big name free agents, but honestly, outside of a right guard, I don't know if there's any that the Colts are really going to go attack, even with the cap space that they have. Obviously, they're signing rookies, so that's going to take some cap space. And then what do we have left after that point? And that's what we're going to be able to go see, hey, what can we do in free agency? Who can we go get? What kind of money can we guarantee? That sort of thing. So we'll see what happens. Of course, if anything happens, of course, I will let you guys know as soon as humanly possible. And we're going to continue talking about draft picks. We have a couple left, and undrafted free agents. Want to go through those. Of course, going to have to do some homework on those ones. Undrafted free agents, right? So we're going to get those videos to you. Plenty of content throughout this offseason. And of course, we are getting into the dead of the offseason. So if you guys have specific topics that you want to talk about, hey, you know, I'm thinking about this. This is what we should talk about. Go ahead, drop it in the comments section. I'd love to know what you guys are thinking. What do you guys want to talk about throughout this offseason? And I think going forward, we're going to try to make time to be able to go live on Sundays. Want to be able to interact with you guys through this offseason, keep things engaged, keep things fresh, and be able to just see where you guys are at, talk Colts football, again, with some of my favorite people. So again, appreciate you stopping by. If you enjoy the content, make sure you hit that like button, make sure you subscribe with notifications on. Of course, appreciate you stopping by for another video. As always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and go Colts.